Not everyone who sits across from me or calls into a reading or messages me after an event is hoping to hear from someone they loved without complication. Sometimes the person who comes through isn't the one they were praying for. We're going to talk about that in today's episode of Beyond This. Hello, hello, hello. How are you all this week? Anyone that experienced the full moon last week will know that it has been slightly trying. And I'm going to fill you in on a few things that's been happening in my world in the last, 2 weeks. If ever there has been a time to remind myself to return to center, to ground myself, it has been the last 2 weeks. It has been not one thing in particular. It has been a culmination of things. On top of that, it has been energy. So if last week was, like me, sleepless in Bendigo, then this week will feel like a breath of fresh air. However, I have had, I've had people issues. I did have to pull myself up the other day and say, okay, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe it's my expectations. But just to give you a little hint about what's going on, those of you that are in my Patreon will know that I am renovating, and I am renovating the main bedroom. It's taken a lot. I understand delays because I've had built-in cupboards that could not be finally measured or finally ordered because the new window had to go in and it frames the window. That's fine. Can live with that. The builders that I've got, I can trust in my house 100%. Let them go. They do their work and they work hard. Like they really, really work hard. However, painters. Painters are an issue. Painters are continually an issue. And it has transpired that I've had to let a painter go today. Just to give you an example of how they failed to show up, or they basically they would not show up for one day. They'd show up and do a couple of hours and they would be in and out. So they may show up at 10 o'clock and then they'd leave again at 11:30, and then they'd show up at 12:30 and leave again at 12 or 1, and then by 1:30 they were finished for the day. And I had every excuse under the book. This guy had a tattoo. He had to, then it got infected. Then he had to go to the gym, and then he had to go and see his tax accountant. Then he had to go to see a meeting, and then he had to go to a doctor, and then he had to get a blood test, and then he had to go and see his therapist, and then this, and then that, and then the other. And it wasn't until one of my plumbers turned up, who is amazing, and he went, "Something's not right here. You shouldn't be project managing this." Um, and we think that he has an issue with substances. So I had to let him go, and I'm now trying to find a new painter, which I've never, ever, ever um, experienced anything like this. 4 weeks of work, and he's just got an undercoat on and some of the woodwork done. I can't. So we start afresh, hopefully with a new crowd over the next couple of days. Funny story, though. Funny story. The plumber said, "Oh, give this guy a call. He's really expensive and he's in demand, so he may not be able to do it." Um, and I said, "Look, I'll give him a go." And the guy was amazing. He turned up at 3 o'clock this afternoon just to do a measure and quote. Paint's already there, finally. Um, and I opened the door and he said, "This is the first house I bought. I was 17 years old." How bizarre is that? That is hilarious. So I gave him a good tour of the place, and hopefully he'll come in with a quote that is good and timing that is good, and I can finally get into my bedroom. But yeah, first world problems. I know, guys. I know it's first world problems. I'm well aware of my privilege, but oh, it's been a lot of work. And we're building up to my first live event in 6 years, which is about to happen the next week. So getting things ready for that and checking out the venue again and all that sort of stuff. So, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. But today's episode is an interesting one because there's a lot of assumptions we make and some stuff we need to dismantle. And I am seeing a lot of psychics and mediums online talking about promises that they make. I saw one today and she wasn't bad as far as the psychic medium goes, but her response when someone said, "Do my loved ones miss me?" was, "Yes, of course they do. They miss you all the time." Your loved ones do not miss you. Do you know why they don't miss you? Because they're with you every single day and they walk beside you. Some people really need to do more development in their work. But we're going to talk about what if those readings what if the people that step forward have a message for you that you need, but they weren't necessarily the people that you were hoping to hear from? Let's talk about that next. It can be the parent who wasn't there, the ex who hurt you, the sibling they hadn't spoken to in a decade, the person whose name still makes their chest tighten. And today I'm going to talk about what happens in those moments when somebody you are least expecting steps forward in a reading, because I think we've built this idea culturally, maybe even in this industry, that mediumship only means something if the relationship was loving, if it was safe, and if it was easy. That's not true. And some of the most healing messages I have ever delivered have come from people the sitter never wanted to hear from again. So that is what we're going to talk about today. Here's the story that most of us carry, even if we've never said it out loud. A message from the other side is a gift, and gifts only come from people who loved us well. So if someone estranged, difficult, or even harmful shows up in a reading, there's this flicker of, what do I do with this? Do I even want this? Now, I am going to caveat this that in my 20 plus years of doing this work, I have never had an abuser step forward and abuse. End of. Full stop. I understand the instinct completely. If someone hurt you in this life, the last thing you expect, or maybe even want, is for them to follow you into your grief, into one space that's supposed to be sacred. But I've sat with hundreds of people, thousands of people, and what I've learned is this: spirit doesn't only show up to comfort us. Sometimes spirit shows up to finish something. And that is not the same thing as intruding. So, why would somebody who hurt you in this lifetime come through at all? In my experience, it is rarely random. And it's almost never to relive the harm. Actually, it's never to relive the harm. It's because something was left unfinished. Not necessarily by you, but by them. A conversation that never happened, an apology that was owed and never given, a version of themselves they never got to become while they were alive. I think of one reading, and I won't give identifying details, but the sitter had come in hoping quietly, desperately for her mother. Instead, her father came through. A man she described to me afterwards as someone she'd spent 30 years trying not to think about. And what came through wasn't an excuse. It wasn't an "I did my best." It was something much quieter, an acknowledgement. He knew what he'd done. He named it. in the way spirit does, through the specific and undeniable details that let someone know this was really them. She didn't come for that message, but she needed it more than she ever knew or even thought she wanted. And here's the part I find myself circling back to again and again in this work. Something shifts after death. I don't know how to explain the mechanism of it. I'm not sure anybody does. But what I witness consistently is this: the ego softens, the defensiveness that protected someone in life seems to fall away, the excuses stop. What's left is closer to clarity, sometimes closer to accountability. It's as if from wherever they are now, they can finally see the shape of the damage they caused, not as an accusation against them, but simply as truth. And it comes through not as a plea for forgiveness, but as an acknowledgement. I see it now. I understand what I did to you. This is an entirely different energy than the confusion, denial, or self protection so many of us lived with while they were alive. I have never had someone that SA'd someone. I have never had an abuser, a sexual abuser, come through. I have never had somebody that was a murderer come through. I am talking about absent parents or parents that did not necessarily step up the way you needed, or a sibling you fell out with. That is what I am talking about. And I want to draw a real distinction here because I think it matters. A vindicating message says, I was right and they were wrong. It's rare, and honestly, it's not really the point of this work. A validating message says something different. It says, I see it now. I'm sorry. I understand what I did to you. That is a healing mechanism. Not being proven right, being seen, finally, by the one person who's seeing you may have spent your whole life waiting for and never received whilst they were alive. There is something that happens in a person's body when that lands. I've watched it. The shoulders drop, the breath changes, not because the past is erased. It isn't, but because the loop closes and the waiting is over. If you're listening to this and there's someone specific in your mind right now, someone you're half afraid might show up in a reading one day, someone whose name still catches in your throat, I want you to hear this clearly. You are allowed to feel complicated about that. You don't have to be ready. You don't have to want it. You are not required to forgive anyone in this life or next, on anyone's timeline but your own. And if a message like that ever does come through, whether with me, with someone else, or simply in a dream, a flicker, a moment that feels too specific to be nothing, you don't have to know what to do with it right away. You're allowed to just receive it, sit with it, and decide later what it means to you. So now we are going to talk about our Patreon and our new Patreon members. I want to give a shout out to Nikki, Michelle McClave, Siobhan, welcome back. Love you big time. Kat and Monica C. Thank you for your support. As always, your Patreon membership supports this podcast. It means that we don't have to have a ton of ads. There was some sneaking in. I didn't know there was a few sneaking in. I've dealt with it. They shouldn't be back. I have sent them packing. in the Patreon at the moment, we have a new manifesting challenge that's going on. It's about really going back to basics with manifesting. It's the laboratory of understanding our own way of manifesting. And I think it's a really important one to do. We have a live chat coming up on the 14th. You just missed the coffee morning. It was great. But all of that is up on the Patreon. We have a diary of events coming in. Discounts for November readings are also in the discounts collection. Please use them. They are there to book your readings. Currently booking through November. I think there's about 6 or 7 appointments left for November. There will be nothing further reading wise until January next year. So if you want a reading, get in quick. Lots going on. I'm currently building a new website, which should be up in the next week or so. Live shows are being booked through to February next year. So those will be released too if you are in Australia. You keep an eye out for those dates. And I am in talks for a retreat in Ireland during 2027 and some dates in the United Kingdom. So lots going on. As always, the Patreon supporters are amazing. The community is one of love and support. And I have just put an apology note up to say, listen, what's going on? I know I've neglected you. I will be back. And I will. I'm so sorry that I have neglected you. I feel neglectful. I'm so sorry. But I will be back. Going to talk about predictions next and what I see coming in because I made a number of predictions on social media this week, and I always like to talk about them here in depth. First of all, thank you for all the love on the new images photographs I have had done. I had a photo shoot about a month ago, actually the beginning of July, and what you are seeing is the result of those. It was fun. It was exciting. There are lots and lots of images, and a few people have said, "Oh, they're AI." They are not AI. I just scrub up well with the help of a makeup artist and a hairdresser. But they are there for a purpose. There's a new website. There's live shows. There's lots of stuff. I have a second website starting where you can go and do my courses. And that is all very, very exciting. So the predictions that I have made, and I've seen a number come in. Earthquakes in Naples came in. The fires in Europe have come in. I've been warning about that for a year, and this is a pretty horrific year for fires in the UK and Europe. The earthquake that happened in Japan, there's a number of stuff that has happened, which I think we um, we have seen. I currently have a gentleman working on an archive document that will be available to all as part of a website. So I think that will be very handy for people. But first of all, arrest of a major politician. I think that this is actually a UK politician. It could be an Australian politician, and it's a major arrest. It's going to make major news. I do think that it could be connected to either the Reform Party or the One Nation Party, and it is to do with embezzlement or lying about financial issues. Pauline Hanson, talking of which, is going to have something thrown at her. She's going to appear somewhere publicly and have like an egg or a tomato or even a bucket of sludge thrown at her. I look forward to seeing that. Travel disruptions in Europe and the USA. I think they're going to stop travel because of going into certain areas, like planes are going to be turned away from airports. It could be to do with weather as well, but it's major and will make major news. You in the UK, if you're planning a trip to Europe, have travel insurance. That's what I want to say. We could even see a budget airline go bust and stop flying, and lots of people are going to miss out on their trips, their flights. Um, Corruption discovered in Australian politics. I do think that this is connected to the Labor Party, and it's going to be big news. Earthquake measuring above 8. I have seen this for Japan or Russia. They are on the same fault line. I do foresee very soon a very large earthquake in California. I know people always ask me. I am not going to give specifics because I don't have them. If I did, I would share them. But you do know how hard earthquakes are to predict. What I want to say to you is if you're in California, especially the San Diego and the San Francisco area, have a go bag ready. That's what I want to say to you. Have a go bag ready for the next 8 months. Obviously longer if you live in an earthquake area, but that's what I have been given. Volcanic action. I feel like there's a volcano in Italy that has been dormant for a while is going to kick off. Don't know which one, but I feel like it's one that's been dormant for a while. But also Indonesia, it could be one that's connected to Bali or around that area. And it means that flights again are going to be cancelled. Major footballer retired due to on field injury. We are going to see this injury on the news. It is big. It is like you're never going to play again. And it's a major footballer, like big news, big names. Markets tumble worldwide. I'm expecting this month. Could be towards the end of the month, but I think the markets are going to take a tumble. I have been given a heads up about that for the last year. I've always felt August, September, very much markets tumble. So that's be very conservative with your investments. Death of a major politician. Everyone's saying Mitch McConnell. We all know that that's about to be announced, but there's someone else. There is someone else, major politician. Yes, I think it's the United States of America. Yes, I think it's a major person. I think it's a major player, and there will be question marks around their passing. Mudslides and flooding in Europe. We are going to see the second half of August bring mudslides and flooding. Wales is standing out to me for a reason, almost like do you remember that thing? It happened in the 60s, so many of you won't remember. I don't remember. I've only watched it on the news where like a mine collapsed and went into a school. We're seeing similar to that. One of the, and I also think other like mountains are falling away. This is serious shit. Mudslides that are serious shit and covering villages in Europe. Be aware, be careful about where you're traveling. The other thing I want to talk about is another hit that I got that I forgot to add to this is I got shown like a boarding school in, I think it's in Europe, UK, that doesn't open at the beginning of the new term, the summer term, I think it is, because of health and safety issues. It's like, no, not going to open. And like people are having to find and scramble a new school, find a new school. That was the other thing that I got. Last week, I talked about Macaulay Culkin and Home Alone and the Home Alone franchise, and that I saw it in the news. It was a last minute prediction that came to me as I was recording, and I put it in. And lo and behold, I woke up the next day to news that was all over the news that he was in meetings. Sometimes I even surprise myself. All right, let's end today on a meditation. Today's a shorter episode. I have managed to get this out. It's been tricky. I'm not going to lie. This week's been tricky for me. As I said, I'm struggling to ground and center myself. It has been a lot, but I wanted to get you this episode because I'd already channeled and organized it. So I'm sorry it's a shorter episode, but I'll make up for it, I promise. Get comfortable. Find a comfortable position wherever you are right now and let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Take a breath in and let it go. I want you to bring to mind, gently, only if you feel ready, someone who is no longer here, someone whose relationship with you was not simple, not easy, maybe even not safe. You don't have to invite them closer. You don't have to want anything from them at all. Just notice that they're there, somewhere at the edge of your awareness, the way a name is there, even when you're not thinking of it. Now imagine just for this moment that wherever they are now, something in them has softened, that the parts of them that hurt you were never whole of who they were, and that whatever caused that hurt, they see it differently now. You don't have to believe this. You don't have to forgive them. You're simply allowing the possibility to exist for these few breaths that they understand. Breathe in, and as you exhale, let yourself release just a little of the weight you've been carrying because of them. Not all of it, just a little, enough to notice the difference. Breathe in, and as you exhale, release a little more of that weight. If a message ever comes through a dream, a feeling, a sign too specific to ignore, you don't have to know what to do with it in this moment. You only have to know that they're allowed to receive it in your own time, in your own way. Bring your awareness back to the room around you, the sounds nearby, the weight of your body where you're sitting. And when you are ready, open your eyes. You are not required to carry this alone anymore. This is the part of the show where I plug what's going on. On the 23rd of August, we have a live evidential mediumship event that is timing-wise aimed at the UK and Australia. I've done this because so many people asked me to, so I have made that available. If I don't get sign-ups, I will cancel and refund. It has been something that people have asked for, but I do need to have a certain number to make it work. That is available to book in the show notes. The 15th of August, I am live in Bendigo for a live mediumship event. If you are in the area or in Victoria, come along, come visit me. I look forward to seeing you. My mediumship mentor program is available. You need to register your interest by sending an email to matilda@mediummatilda.com or following the link in the show notes to sign up, and you will be invited depending on the questionnaire answers. I think there is 5 spaces available. That is a 4-week period during October. And that is about it that's going on right now. Thank you for bearing with me. If you are in my Patreon, I appreciate your patience. I have been here, there, and everywhere, and a little bit overwhelmed in recent weeks. But I am working on bringing myself back to center, and I will be back there. Let me know where you're listening to me from today. I'm always interested to see how far and wide we reach. This has been Beyond This, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Take care.